What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. And man, we got a big news day. So for those of you, well, you guys obviously don't know, but originally I had pre-recorded a video talking about Adam Foote and Matty Malhotra being, the final two. Like one of these two were going to be the next head coach for the Vancouver Canucks. I pre-recorded that video last night, was going to have it come out earlier today around 12:30-ish or 12. And then the news broke that Adam Foote is the new head coach for the Vancouver Canucks. So I ended up scrapping that video and basically had to cancel it and make sure it didn't upload. And then that the Adam Foote announcement of him becoming the new head coach, and then on top of that, Rick Tocchet is the new head coach of the Philadelphia Flyers. So that news broke. And then I just found out that Tom Willander has officially signed with the Vancouver Canucks. He signed his ELC 3-year contract. And speaking of 3-year contracts, Adam Foote's contract is a 3-year deal. So he will be the head coach for the next 3 years. So we're gonna discuss all of those topics in this video. I was also already planning to do my top 10 ranking video that I mentioned a while back when I did my captains one. I mentioned that I was going to be doing a Vancouver goalies one. So that's going to be a part of this video. So basically I'm taking 3 videos and I'm plucking them together. So we're going to do that. But before we dive into our videos, I would just like to thank my sponsor, which is Uppbeat Energy. Thank you to my sponsor, Uppbeat Energy. Are you looking for an energy drink that is jitter-free, crash-free, no sugars, no artificial colors or dyes, and also has no calories? Well, then Uppbeat Energy is just what the doctor ordered for you. Uppbeat Energy has over 15 unique and custom different flavors to choose from, including Galaxy Grenade, which is a blend of watermelon, guava, and lime explosion. Sounds delicious to me. Also, they have their Beach in Peach, which is a combination of mango, white peach. If you're looking to give it a try, go ahead and get the starter sampler pack for $24. In that sampler pack, you get a shaker and 3 different flavors to try. You can also use the code the line change and save 10% on said purchase. Right now, they actually have a buy 2 get 1 free sale going on for the rest of this month. Use the code B2G1 when you have 3 tubs or more in your cart. Go ahead and check out their website, www.dubby.gg. Once again, that is www.dubby.gg. Uppbeat Energy. Be better. Your taste buds' favorite energy drink. All right, so let's go ahead and break down all these topics. I managed to get a couple articles for the Adam Foote announcement as well as the Tom Willander. What I'm thinking is we'll do Adam Foote first, and then we'll shift to Willander, and then at the end we'll do the goalie rankings. All right, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. This article is coming to us from Daily Faceoff, Ben Steiner to be exact. This was the first article that I found that talked about Adam Foote becoming the next head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. The Vancouver Canucks have named Adam Foote as their next head coach ahead of the 25-26 NHL season. The club announced on Wednesday. The role is Foote's first as an NHL head coach, having previously served as a defensive coach with the Colorado Avalanche from 2011 to 2017, and as an assistant coach with the Canucks on Rick Tocchet's staff over the last 2 seasons. According to Czech TV's Rick Dhaliwal, Foote is signed to a 3-year deal with the club. While he may not have experience as an NHL bench boss, Foote served as the head coach of the WHL's Kelowna Rockets from 2018 to 2020, helping lead their rebuild before being let go after posting a 57-66-5 record. Foote, now 53, enjoyed a lengthy career as an NHL defenseman, playing 19 seasons with the Quebec Nordiques, Avalanche, and Columbus Blue Jackets. Through 1,154 career NHL games, he posted 66 goals and 308 points. He will now remain with a Canucks organization that allowed him to speak with other teams after Tocchet decided to move on. Reports suggested that during Vancouver's coaching search, the finalists came down to him and Abbotsford head coach Manny Malhotra. Vancouver's head coaching position was left vacant on April 29th after Tocchet announced his departure from the team after failing to make the Stanley Cup playoffs with a 38-30-24 record, a dip from Vancouver's run to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2023-24. And Adam is a strong leader, good teacher, and person who knows what it takes to build a great culture and winning attitude, Canucks general manager Patrick Allvin said in a release. His past experiences on the ice have translated nicely into a coaching style that fits our organization's goals and vision. Foote is reportedly close with Canucks captain and top blue liner Quinn Hughes, who publicly spoke as a massive fan of Tocchet and wanted him to return. However, Hughes has also spoken glowingly about Foote. The Canucks will look to bounce back when they hit the ice in 2025-26 with puck drop on the NHL regular season set for October 7th. So there's that. So there you go. Adam Foote is the 22nd head coach in Vancouver Canucks history. And I'll admit, I was actually surprised that Foote was named. I mean, I know he was a finalist, and it was between him and Manny, but I was leaning towards Manny. And Patrick Johnston even said Manny was the odds-on favorite to get the role. Ooh, that W energy's good. So yeah, seems like everyone was pointing towards Manny Malhotra, but it looks like the Canucks decided to go with Adam Foote. They decided to go with the older, not necessarily the more experienced coach, but the veteran, the older coach. And that is why Adam Foote is now the new head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. As I just mentioned, I was surprised, as I thought it was going to go to Manny, and I thought Manny absolutely deserved it. He's earned it as well. But you can't take that away from Adam Foote either, as Adam Foote has earned it himself. He also deserves it. And I guess the Canucks were in a bit of a pickle, having to, pick, that's a definite hard choice to make between the two. But I will say I'm not mad about them choosing Foote over Manny. I am interested to see what goes on now and what Adam Foote is going to bring to the Vancouver Canucks as the head coach after spending the last 2 seasons as an assistant coach and, more importantly, the defensive coach. So there's another vacancy in the Canucks coaching staff, as Adam Foote was the defensive coach. Now they're going to need a new one because, Adam Foote is now the big boss now, at least on the coaching staff. And then obviously a lot of people have been speculating that perhaps could Manny Malhotra be named an assistant coach for the big club. There's a possibility that could happen. I'm not going to lie, I would absolutely love for that to happen myself, as that would be my personal choice, is to have at least Manny, be the assistant coach. Yes, he's done absolutely great in Abbotsford, but he's due to come back up to the big club. And I do feel as though they are still grooming Manny to one day eventually become, at least a head coach. For all we know, it may not even be with the Canucks. For all we know, it could very well be the next head coach if they decide to move on from Adam Foote, or if Adam Foote decides he wants to move on. They're grooming Manny Malhotra to be the next in line. So if they were to bring him up as a assistant coach, I'd be all in for it. But let's I am curious to see how the rest of this offseason goes. I mean, they managed to lock up their coach. They locked up Tom Willander, their top prospect. So now what's the next domino to fall in this offseason? I'm very curious to know what that is. And we're going to get into Willander in a second here. But even though they've now officially signed him, is he still a trade piece? We're going to talk about that in just a sec. But yeah, so Adam Foote, the new and the 22nd head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. And yeah, so let's start talking about Tom Willander. So this article is coming to our friends from Canucks Army. This article is written by Tyler Kuhl. After a long and drawn-out and highly publicized negotiation, one of the top prospects in the Vancouver Canucks system has inked his first NHL contract. On Wednesday, General Manager Patrick Allvin announced that the team has signed defenseman Tom Willander to a 3-year entry-level contract. The deal is set to begin next season. Per Puckpedia, Willander's cap hit is $950,000, but his AAV is $1.7 million, with a $95,000 signing bonus. Part of the deal has Willander receiving A-level performance bonuses. He could make up to $500,000 in bonuses in year 1, $900,000 in year 2, with a potential $1 million going in his pocket in the final season of the contract. Willander became a hot topic around Vancouver after his sophomore season wrapped up early last month, with his Boston University Terriers losing to the Western Michigan Broncos in the NCAA championship game. Many expected the Swedish blue liner to sign with the Canucks in time to get a game or two before the end of the regular season. However, that didn't happen. According to Allvin, during his end-of-season media availability, Willander was planning on heading back to BU for his junior campaign. In an interview, Willander said that he and the Canucks weren't close on the terms of his contract. Those issues seem to have been resolved. All that put aside, there's much to be excited about the right-handed shooting defender. While he isn't large in stature, standing 6'1" and weighing a little under 200 pounds, Willander has efficient foot speed that helps him move the puck up the ice on his own, while also being able to keep up with the opposition's best players. While he will have some maturing to do physically, his quickness and agility proves that he's ready for the professional ranks. In his 2 seasons with the Terriers, the Stockholm native scored 6 goals and 43 assists for 49 points in 77 games, helping BU get to the Frozen Four in both years with the program. Willander has played for Trey Kronar on multiple occasions internationally. In addition to playing for the under-17 national team, the Rogel BK product played for Sweden at the 2022 Helinka Gretzky Cup and 2023 IIHF Under-18 Men's World Championship, taking home the silver medal from both events. Willander was on the Swedish squad that fell to the United States in the gold medal game of the 2024 IIHF World Junior Championship, also playing at the World Juniors in Ottawa earlier this year. The Canucks took Willander in the first round, 11th overall of the 2023 NHL draft. So there's that article. So as I mentioned at the start of this video, big news day for the Canucks and Canuck fans, as well as Canuck content creators. I already saw my buddy Clay, Canuck Clay, post a couple videos, and this guy's trying to get ready to go on vacation. So I guess the Canucks picked a good time to pump out this news before he goes on this trip. On that note, Clay, I hope you have a great trip, and I hope you enjoy yourself and enjoy some nice R&R in Quebec. But yeah, as far as Willander goes, obviously I brought up that question. Even though he is now officially signed, is he still a trade piece for the Vancouver Canucks? Has that changed now that he has officially signed? Or did they just want to sign him and then trade him at the draft so they can get their second line center that they keep talking about and that they desperately need? Obviously, Willander is a huge trade piece when it comes to that. A lot of people have said over the last few days that him and their first round 15th overall pick would probably entice someone to trade a top six a top six second line center. Question is, are they still going to look or entertain the possibility of still trading him at the draft and acquiring that center that they so desperately need? Honestly, I'm still in the realm of that. I think they're going to trade him, as it seems to be, their best trade piece that they have. And I think a lot of teams would jump at Willander and his potential. And I think it was it yesterday? I think it may have been yesterday on Canucks Conversation. Our friend David Quadrelli was talking about Willander and trading Willander, and I forget exactly. Or no. It was not Canucks Conversation. My apologies. It was Sekeres and Price. They were talking about trading Willander to, I believe it was Minnesota, to acquire Marco Rossi, and using him as a bit of a sweetener along with the 15th overall pick and maybe another draft pick. I forget the defenseman that Sekeres and Price were talking about for Minnesota. If you guys watched it and actually remember, let me know in the comment section down below that Minnesota defenseman's name once again. I really like that trade. I mean, it brings us Marco Rossi. Yes, you move out Tom Willander, but you also get somebody, a right shot defenseman in return, and someone who was, I believe they were talking to Cam Robinson. They were comparing this Minnesota defenseman to Victor Mancini, like basically a smaller Victor Mancini, which, hey, I'm a big fan of Mancini, so I'd be all for that. But speaking of Marco Rossi, I do have, by the time this comes out, I will have already done a video on Marco Rossi and asking the question of, should the Canucks trade for Marco Rossi, or should they offer sheet Marco Rossi? So by the time this video comes out, that video will already be out. I'll leave a link to it right here, so you guys can check that out. But I won't dive too much into Marco Rossi, as you'll see it with that video. But yeah, I do think that Tom Willander could still be a potential trade piece. I've also heard, whispers and like little chatter about Lekramaki, but I feel as though his value has kind of gone down a little bit with the way he hasn't been performing in the playoffs for Abby, and how he's kind of been like non-existent with the exception of that one game. So I do think Willander has more upside as a trade piece than Lekramaki. But you guys let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Do you guys agree with that? Do you guys disagree with that? Let me know in the comment section. So that's going to wrap it up for the Tom Willander story. And once again, I will leave a link to both articles in the description down below for you guys to check out. But let's get to what was originally supposed to be the main focus of this video, and that was my top 10 goalie rankings. Top 10 Canucks goalie rankings. And I have them all listed here. I'm going to go 10 to 1. So from so 1 obviously being, my number 1, and 10 being like the least. You guys understand that. I have attached the years that they were with the Vancouver Canucks beside their names, so you guys can always look those up, and then you guys can also get a picture of, when these goaltenders actually played for the Canucks. A lot of these names, some of the more younger fan base, at least those that are, younger than me, probably might not recognize some of these names. I might also, actually, you know what? I'm going to do a little honorable mention section. And I'm going to add a couple names that you guys might not even remember, but I do. So honorable mentions. I'm going to add the years as well real quick. So give me one real quick sec. I got to quickly Google some of the years because I don't remember. At least not off the top of my head anyway. No, I think I'm going to limit it to 3, maybe 4 honorable mentions. There's 2. Three. I want to do one more. Nah, no, I'll keep. I'll just do 3. And then I'll do the whoa, sorry. My bad. So I'll do the honorable mentions. Hopefully you guys don't have quick eyes and were able to see that, but you guys probably did. But anyway, I'm gonna start with number 10. So we're gonna start with number 10. And I'll talk a little bit about the goalie and why I ranked them where I did and what I liked about them. So let's start it off, and we're kicking it off. Ranking number 10. This is probably a name that a lot of Canuck fans, at least that tune into my channel, and like the newer variety, like the younger Canuck fans, probably are not going to recognize this name at all. But ranking number 10, Bob Essensa. So yeah, I have Bob Essensa as my number 10 ranking for Canucks goalies. Now, granted, Essensa wasn't the greatest Canucks goalie. However, he only played one season with us, but that one season, he was great, and he was actually technically the backup. And I just have fond memories of watching the Canucks and watching Bob Essensa in the net and just making some of the most spectacular saves I had ever seen at that time. I think I can't remember, exact saves, but there were some freaking good ones, and it had me, going crazy. It had me just absolutely love this guy. And then also you can't go wrong with, the name, like Essensa. It had that, flair to it. I guess you could say. I mean, at least me anyway did. So yeah, ranking number 10 is Bob Essensa, who only played one season with the Vancouver Canucks. Moving on to number 9. This might be one that some people are a little bit more familiar with, but I have him at number 9, and it's Dan Cloutier, who played for the Vancouver Canucks from 2001 to 2006. I was a big fan of Klutz, as everyone used to call him, and I just liked his playing style. He was a stand-up / butterfly hybrid. So his style was a hybrid of the stand-up and butterfly styles. And as a former goalie myself, I actually spent a lot of time kind of emulating Kluche when I was playing goalie, and especially when I was playing like ice hockey, I really emulated Kluche. I just, I can't exactly put my finger on one exact thing, but he, much like with Essensa, sorry, there's something about him. And no, it wasn't the full-on cage that he had. Although I did really, really like that about him, and it made him kind of stand out compared to the rest of the goalies of the time. Really made him stand out. I mean, I was also a big fan of, he's not a Canucks goalie, so he's not a part of these rankings. But I also really liked Dominic Hasek. I was a big fan of his back in the day, and he as well, just like Klutz, he stood out because of his mask and just the difference of it, and not just that for at least Hasek. The guy was nuts too. Like the saves, the freaking windmill saves that he would do, stacking the pads and then, tipping over, and just some of the saves that Dominic, the Dominator, made is like burned into my brain. And I really, believe it or not, I studied a lot of tape and watched a lot of highlights, at least the best I could with, the times, and really tried to emulate both Kluche and Hasek as well. So yeah, Dan Kluche is number 9 for me. Also, I will say one thing about Kluche, and this has never left my mind. It's a memory, of watching. I don't remember the exact details, like who they were playing and what the score was and stuff like that. I just remember this one save that Dan Kluche made where he was completely out of the net. He was out of position, and the player who was shooting had a wide open goal, and Kluche dove and caught the puck, made the save, caught the puck like he was playing baseball, like he was a freaking MLB shortstop. Like that's the kind of save that he made, and that save in particular, again, I don't remember exact like the date, the team they were playing. I don't remember those details. All I remember is that save. It is like burned into my brain, and I remember watching that live, and my jaw just literally hitting the floor. I mean, like, what did I just see? So there's a little memory of Dan Kluche for you. Let's move on to number 8. And number 8, Felix Potvin. Now, that's probably a name that a lot of you guys probably do not recognize at all. I obviously remember Felix the Cat. Potvin, he played for the Canucks from 1999 to 2001. So he only played like a couple seasons. Then he was traded to the LA Kings. Now, we're talking about masks and making people stand out in regards to Kluche and Hasek. Potvin, his masks, they were like the stuff of legend. Like he had some great and amazing designs for his mask, and I wish I could have found a really good like picture. But you know what? If you guys Google Felix Potvin mask, I'm sure it'll come up and you'll be able to see it. But he would have like cat eyes on his mask, and it was like a cat's face and mouth. That the mouth would be down here, the eyes would be up here, and it would be in the color scheme of whichever team he played for. And I absolutely loved that about Potvin. Again, wasn't the best goalie, but he still left a mark on me, and I've been a fan of his ever since. Now, yeah, he had a short stint with the Canucks, and those were during the years that, let's be realistic, the Canucks were not good in those years. So can't really fault Potvin for that completely, but he's still, he, in my eyes, he was like the coolest thing, with the mask, even like his equipment, the pads. He was famous for wearing Brian's, the manufacturer, and he would have like these cool designs on his pads that actually I believe a lot of them looked like, you know, it resembled his mask, with like the cat design on both pads, and then obviously the blocker, the trapper. I just thought, again, it was the coolest thing ever. And those of you that remember Potvin and the equipment he had, the mask and all that, you know what I'm talking about. And so moving on to number 7. This one you guys will at least should know. Number 7 for me is Eddie Lack, who played for the Vancouver Canucks from 2013 until 2015. So he played 2 seasons with at least the Vancouver Canucks. He was in their development system for a good chunk of that. He obviously came up in their development system with the Chicago Wolves. But I really loved Eddie. I thought he was great. Thing that I loved, I think, the most about him, and this is probably something that a lot of people will tell you that they loved about Eddie Lack, his personality. The guy is a hoot when it comes to Twitter. I don't know if you guys have seen him on Twitter, but he's like a, Strongbone one, junior. You know how Strongbone one is Roberto Luongo's Twitter handle, and he's always posting jokes and cracking things up. Eddie has, and if you think about it, Eddie played a little bit with Lou, so he probably got a little bit of that from Lou, and he's now doing it himself. Obviously, at one point, a lot of Canucks fans saw Eddie Lack as the future for the Canucks goaltending. Obviously, that ended up not working out, but I still wanted him in this position in the rankings just because I thought he had so much potential, and it's a real shame that his career didn't blossom like we all thought it would. And yeah. Well, let's move to number 6. Number 6 is Jacob Markstrom, who played for the Canucks from 2013 until 2020. He was obviously who we got in the Roberto Luongo trade when we traded Luongo back to Florida. I know I mentioned in my What Would You Change in Canucks History video that I would change that trade in particular simply because I did not want to trade Luongo away. I wanted us to keep Luongo. I wanted him to retire as a Canuck. As I'm not sure if I've mentioned it on this channel or not, but I'll go ahead and mention it again. Roberto Luongo, as you guys can tell, number 1. Here. Roberto Luongo is my all-time favorite Vancouver Canuck. Not just goalie, but player too. Just player in general. Obviously, Quinn Hughes has made his way up, and he's right on his butt when it comes to where I have them. He's right. Luongo's here, and Quinn Hughes is like right up against there. So, but yeah. Lou is my favorite Canuck of all time. So obviously, if I had that power, I would have never done that trade, and we wouldn't have had Jacob Markstrom for the amount of years that we did. But I did have Markstrom high up on this list because despite the trade, I did really like Markstrom, and thought, much like with Eddie Lack, he had a lot of potential. And obviously, things didn't work out here in Vancouver, as he ended up signing with Calgary after the 2020 season. But I have Jacob Markstrom at number 6 on at least my rankings. Let's move on to number 5. Number 5, I got Lank the Tank, Kevin Lankinen. Guy has not just grown on me, but he's, leapfrogged past a bunch of these other great Canucks goaltenders. He's in the top 5, baby, and that is in large part due to this past season that he had, as he really, as I've mentioned before on this channel, if it wasn't for Kevin Lankinen and Quinn Hughes, obviously, but Quinn Hughes is Superman. Okay, so we're not gonna. But if it wasn't for Kevin Lankinen, the Canucks wouldn't have, made it all the way down to the end before, obviously missing out on the playoffs. If it wasn't for Kevin Lankinen, they would have been way further back. They probably would have had a better chance of winning the lottery if they did not have Kevin Lankinen. Let's just put it that way. So I have Kevin Lankinen at number 5. Obviously, he signed very late in spring training. Not spring training. Sorry, that's baseball. Training camp. He signed very late. Signed the 1-year deal. It was under like $1 million. Then obviously, as we all know, and as I covered on this channel, he got his extension. He got paid, and damn it, he earned it. So I have Kevin Lankinen at number 5. I've, from his play, and I also just like his personality too. It's another personality thing for me. I just love Lank, and I think him and Demko are going to be a really great duo. And I would absolutely love to see them as a great duo for the next several years. Obviously, Lankinen signed that 5-year deal, so he's at least going to be around for the next 5 years. We don't know about Demko yet. Obviously, he will be a UFA at the end of next season. Although he has mentioned, he mentioned in the end of season presser that he doesn't want to go anywhere else. He wants to stay here in Vancouver. He wants to forever be a Vancouver Canuck. So hopefully, Patrick Allvin and Jim Rutherford can get that done. Moving on to number 4. We're already down to 4. Number 4, Corey Schneider. Schneider was with the Canucks from 2008 until 2013. Everyone fondly remembers the Luongo-Schneider duo that the Canucks had, much similar to what we have now with Lankinen and Demko. We had that with Corey Schneider and Roberto Luongo back in 2008 and the late 2010s, or I should say early 2010s. And yeah, I thought Schneider was a beast. I thought, much like some of the others, I thought he had great potential. He had obviously great chemistry with Lou, and the two of them were a tandem. They actually even won the William M. Jennings trophy. I think it was at least once or twice, maybe. I know they at least won it once for sure, which for those of you that don't know, that trophy, the William M. Jennings trophy, goes to the goalie or goalies who surrendered the least amount of goals during a season. So Schneider and Luongo ended up winning that one year. I don't remember the exact year, but I have Corey Schneider at number 4 on this list. And yeah, I will admit, when we traded Schneider, obviously around that time, there was all this talk about, are they going to trade Lou? Or actually there was all this, rumors and trade talk similar to what we've seen this past year with Elias Pettersson. There's all this talk about, we're going to trade Lou. We're going to trade Lou. We're going to trade Lou. And then they end up keeping Lou and actually end up trading Schneider to the New Jersey Devils. So there's that. Moving on to number 3. Only 3 left. Number 3, I got Kirky. Kirk McLean, captain. No, not Captain Canuck, because that's Trevor Linden. But actually, you know what? Mr. Canuck. There you go. That is Kirk McLean, Mr. Canuck. Played for the Vancouver Canucks from 1987 to 1998. Obviously, Kirk is up there. He's in the Ring of Honor. Yes, he doesn't have his jersey retired yet, but there seems to be an issue with, because you have 3 Canuck goalies who have worn the number 1. Kirk McLean, Roberto Luongo, and I forget the third. Smith something. I think it's Smith. But all 3 wore number 1. So that's why. So they don't have number 1 retired, like up in the rafters with, Daniel, Henrik, Naslund, Linden, Smeal. They don't have the number 1 up there, which, damn it, I think they should. Like, I'm not saying this is true, nor am I, think this is the reason. But why they don't have Lou, McLean, or even Smith for that matter, but mainly, Kirk and Lou, if the reason they don't have their jersey up, their jerseys up in the rafters, is because both of them wore the same number. I'm sorry, but that's a BS. That's a BS excuse. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I don't think it should matter if 2 players had the same number. I've always said, since the Luongo Ring of Honor night, or actually I should say, when that whole thing was announced, I protested it. I was like, okay, the Ring of Honor is cool, but Luongo deserves to have his jersey in the rafters. And hell, throw Kirk's up there too. I mean, there is, I don't, correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below, but I'm pretty sure there is not a rule that you can't have 2 numbers in the rafters. No, 2 different players with the same number in the rafters. I'm pretty sure that's not a rule, or I don't recall that being a rule. Let me know if I'm wrong, and I'll zip it. All right. But I've always said, have Lou have his jersey retired, and have Kirk McLean have his jersey retired at the same night. Retire both of them at once. Put them in the rafters where they belong, because both of them belong up in the rafters. The Ring of Honor is kind of cheesy, at least when it comes to McLean and Lou. Both those, and I bet you a lot of Canucks fans would agree with me too, that both of them should be in the rafters. And if we had our way, they would be in the rafters. So there's my little rant on that. So moving on to number 2. Number 2, Thatcher the Snatcher. Thatcher Demko is number 2 on my ranking list, for obvious reasons, as it's Thatcher Demko, who's been with the Vancouver Canucks since 2017. So he's been with the team for 8 years. And obviously last season, a Vezina finalist before he got hurt. And then obviously, that Popliteus injury really took a toll on him, both mentally and physically. And we've just seen spurts of the Demko of old throughout this past season. Obviously, prior to him sustaining that groin injury, he was starting to look like the Demko of old. And then he unfortunately had that injury. Obviously, there's, the questions about his health and him being injury prone and all this hoopla, blah, blah, whatever. But I have Thatcher Demko at second on my rankings just because, he's, with the exception of maybe this past season, he's not really had a too terrible season. Like he's gotten better each year. And again, I bring it back to the personality thing. I love his personality. I think he's great. We were talking earlier about masks. Demko's are amazing. And I love when he actually posts actual photos of the mask. Like that one mask that he has that has the Daniel and Henrik on the back, and their jerseys up in the rafters. I think that's cool. And that the skull with the Johnny Canuck mask is absolutely great. But yeah, and obviously, this ranking might be a little bit of recency bias because it is Demko, but as I mentioned, I have Demko ranked number 2 on my top 10 Vancouver Canucks goalies rankings, which leaves us with one left. I wonder who it is. Ranking number 1 ranked Vancouver Canucks goalie, Roberto Luongo. So yeah, I have Berto as number 1. Obviously, you guys probably figured that out 5 rankings ago. Yeah, I have Roberto Luongo, played for the Vancouver Canucks from 2006 until 2014. If I had it my way, he would have retired as a Vancouver Canuck. Sorry. It's a bit of a touchy subject for me. Yeah, Roberto Luongo. And what can you say about Lou? I mean, we keep coming back to personality. Like Luongo, his personality, Strombone 1. Like, guy's a hoot. Just like I mentioned with Eddie Lack. He's a hoot. And not only that, but in my completely biased opinion, I'm admitting it. He is, the best goalie that this team, this organization has ever had. He has so many records and I think a lot of those records very well may last the test of time, because I don't think a whole lot of people are going to break his records. I mean, maybe Demko, depending on how long he is here, could potentially, come at least close. But I don't think anyone else is going to come close to Luongo. Believe it or not, sorry guys. Believe it or not, when we first acquired Roberto Luongo, I don't want to say I wasn't a fan. I mean, I knew of him, but I wasn't, all gung-ho about Luongo when he first came in. I was just like, that guy from Florida. And then, seeing him play and just, again, like mentioning when I mentioned before with like Kluche and Potvin, me being a goalie, I really watched Luongo and the way he played, and he was an inspiration for me as a goaltender. Yes, I kind of modeled myself after Kluche earlier when I was playing goalie, but through the later years of me playing goalie, and in particular, this was after I stopped playing ice hockey and was mainly just playing street hockey. but I was still playing goalie. I modeled myself after Luongo and studied tape of his, believe it or not, even though it was just, a street hockey league just for fun. No, there's nothing really on the line. It was just for fun, but I took it serious, and Luongo, having watched Luongo, really had a lot to do with that. And watching him play, obviously, I'll never forget the 2011 Stanley Cup playoff run, going all the way to the finals. People were all, down on Lou. Oh, people were all down on Lou, especially those bad games that he had, especially in particular in the Stanley Cup finals. Not me. I never once went down on Lou, or was down on Lou. Obviously, us losing in the cup in Game 7 was heartbreaking for me. Not only was I heartbroken as a Canucks fan, but I was heartbroken for Luongo, because I really felt as though he deserved to win the Stanley Cup, especially coming off of winning the gold medal in the Olympics, the year before. And I thought that could have been a, full circle moment for Lou, winning a gold medal in Vancouver, and then a year later, potentially winning the Stanley Cup. Would have been just, it would have been that cherry on top for him. And then, of course, came the whole my contract sucks stuff. And I mean, he wasn't wrong. His contract did suck. But then the part that really, for lack of a better term, pissed me off, and that was, of course, him being sat in favor of Eddie Lack in the Heritage Classic by John Tortorella. That really set me off. Clearly, it set Lou off, because Lou made it clear that he wanted to play in this game, and things were already a little rocky between Lou and the Canucks at that point. And Tortorella benching, sitting him in favor of Eddie Lack is what led to Luongo being traded, in my personal opinion. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And that was the last straw for Luongo. So, again, as I mentioned in that, what would you change? Shit. All right. Wow. Guess my body's trying to tell me something. So basically, that whole ordeal, like I mentioned in my What Would You Change in Canucks History video, I do think, the Heritage him not starting in the Heritage Classic was the straw that broke the camel's back, as I mentioned, and was probably, as I also mentioned, was the last straw for Luongo. And if I had the ability to change that, I would, in a heartbeat, because we very well could have had Roberto Luongo finish his career in Vancouver. And he probably would not have been traded in 2014 back to the Florida Panthers. But then I guess that also brings up something else. Because had that trade not happened, Luongo would not be a Stanley Cup champion. Granted, he never won it while he played, but last year with Florida winning the Stanley Cup, Lou got his ring. And he finally got to hoist the Stanley Cup, which made me absolutely over the moon happy. Believe it or not, I was actually cheering for Florida in that series. Yes, obviously, because the Oilers had beaten us. So I was like, I ain't cheering for the Oilers after they just, knocked us out. But that wasn't the only reason why I was cheering for Florida. I was cheering because of Roberto Luongo, Sam Reinhart. I wanted these guys to win the Stanley Cup and get that ring. And of course, Bobby Lou finally can say he is a Stanley Cup champion. Now all that's left is for them to put his freaking jersey up in the rafters. That's all that's left for him. And then his career is complete. That is the cherry on top right there. Having his jersey retired up in the rafters at the Raj for all to see. So there you have it. My top 10 Vancouver Canucks goalie rankings. But I have not forgotten about my honorable mentions. You guys got a little sneak peek earlier because it accidentally showed. So I'm going to go ahead and just mention the honorable mentions. I got Arturs Urbe, who played for the Vancouver Canucks from 1997 to 1998. He was another one, much like with Kluche and Hasek, had the cage mask instead of the traditional one. And I just love that name too. Urbe. Arturs Urbe. Believe it or not, Arturs Silovs reminds me a lot of Urbe. Like when he first was brought up and they're like, this is Arturs Silovs. I was like, is that Arturs Urbe's long lost, son or cousin? But Arturs Urbe, 1997 to 1998. Shit. Sorry. And then you got Garth Snow, probably a name that a lot of more recent Canuck fans are not familiar with, unless you really go back into your history. Garth Snow was with the Canucks from 1997 to 2000, so around the time that I started being a Canucks fan and actually started paying attention and actually watching. I was old enough to watch and understand hockey, so that was right around when we got Garth Snow. And then I also have Kevin Weeks, who was with the Canucks from 1998 to 2000, so he only spent 2 seasons in Vancouver. But I don't know what it was about Kevin Weeks, but I just really liked him. It wasn't all that great for the Canucks, I will admit, but I don't know, just something about him. I just gravitated towards him for some reason and really liked him as a Vancouver Canuck. So I was trying to think of a third one, and Kevin Weeks came to mind. There's obviously more. You got like Braden Holtby. Trying to think of another from way back. Stop yawning. Jeez. I apologize if me yawning is making you yawn. Believe me, I'm not doing this on purpose. Okay? No, I can't really think of anyone else. But yeah, anyway. So yeah, those are my top 10 Vancouver Canucks goalie rankings. And of course, with the 3 honorable mentions. Yeah. Wow, we're over an hour. I guess that's what happens when you combine 3 videos into one really big, massive video. Not bad. And if I'm being completely honest, I think this was actually one of my better videos. So hopefully you guys agree. And on that note, if you guys want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content on this channel, be sure to like the video. Be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're subscribed to the channel. And make sure you turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. And then also, while you're at it, find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change. and you can find our Facebook page. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on Twitter /X at Line Change Van. You can also find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. Be sure to go ahead and give us a follow on all our social media platforms. And if you prefer a audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Spotify. That way you'll also never miss a video on that platform if you're ever on the go and just want to listen to the audio version and not have to worry about turning your clicking your phone and slipping it into your pocket so you can just listen. Those of you that have iPhones, you know what I'm talking about for that. Also on Spotify, you can rate and review. It is very greatly appreciated if you do so. But yeah, anyway, that's going to do it for this video. Again, over an hour long, 3 videos put together into one. So until next time, let's go Canucks. Some big news today. We got ourselves a coach. We got ourselves Tom Willander officially signed. Rick Tocchet signs with Philadelphia. Like we didn't see that coming. And I think that's it. Unless something gets announced as I'm recording this right now, or while I was yapping about the goalies, I'm gonna maybe go check and see. Maybe I need to do another video. So until then, as I mentioned, go Canucks go, and I'll see you guys in the next video.